3 o'clock here on the Burns and Gambo Show, roundtable style. Jody Jackson from the Arizona Diamondbacks broadcast team, our guest in studio for one more segment. It's going roundtable style for the MLB trade deadline, which just came and went 2 minutes ago. It ended. The big news coming down during the commercial break was something kind of Gambo was alluding to as we were going into the break. That Dylan Cease was not going to be got by the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's not going to be got by anybody. According to reports, he's not going anywhere. Gambo, you're raising your hand? Yes, go ahead.
It is over. While things can sneak through, the Diamondbacks are finished.
The Diamondbacks are done?
There are no more trades.
Okay, so nothing else
There
Diamondbacks.
will not be a trade for a starting pitcher.
Because things can sneak through at the last minute, and I totally 100% trust what Gambo's saying here. I'm just explaining to the audience that with these trade deadlines, it's not always a hard and fast deadline. Sometimes something will come through at the last minute, and it won't get reported on for another 5, 10, or 15 minutes. But Gambo, you are reporting that the Arizona Diamondbacks are done.
Yes.
Okay. So with that being said, let's recap what the Arizona Diamondbacks have done at the deadline, assuming that they are finished. Paul Sewald, closer for the Seattle Mariners, was added this time yesterday afternoon. Jace Peterson, utility infielder from the Oakland A's, was acquired last night, essentially to replace Josh Rojas as kind of utility infielder for the team. Andrew Chafin was dealt today to the Milwaukee Brewers in exchange for right-handed relief pitcher, Peter Strzelecki. Strzelecki has years and years of control left under him. And then in maybe the real surprise of the deadline for the Diamondbacks, the everything must go New York Mets have sent Tommy Pham to the Arizona Diamondbacks in exchange for minor league 17-year-old shortstop Jeremy Rodriguez. I figured out, Jody, who it was I was confusing him with. I thought it was Justin Martinez, the relief pitcher for the Diamondbacks.
Who we have seen, and we may see again.
We might see again, yeah. And at first I thought, man, they gave up him? No, they didn't. Yeah. They gave up Jeremy Rodriguez, who's a 17-year-old. And while Gambo's working the phones, I see him out of the corner of my eye doing the Gambo thing. Jody, I'll start with you on this one. And it's kind of what we were alluding to in the last segment. Did the Arizona Diamondbacks, in your opinion, do enough at the deadline? Or is the lack of a starter kind of the glaring, oops, they didn't address that kind of moment?
I think they absolutely wanted to add a starting pitcher. But yesterday, in talking to Mike Hazen, he did say that they are going to look at some of the AAA prospects. They also feel good. This is a vote of confidence for the other pitchers on this staff. I'll tell you why. This is not only Ryan Nelson, Tommy Henry when he's back, and Brandon Pfaadt. This is also Kyle Nelson. This team had a ton of left-handed pitchers earlier this season when Joe Mantiply came back, and then you had Chafin and Mantiply and Nelson, and they had a lot of lefty options. Now this is obviously a result of Kyle Nelson being very effective, but Andrew Chafin, I'm always sitting by the dugout, right? When guys come up, it's a no-brainer. When you're playing, the Dodgers, it's Chafin that's going to see Freddie Freeman. It's those matchups. I can hear all of that going on, and Chafin is slated to face these guys. Well, now you have Kyle, you have potentially Joe Mantiply still in the fold. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Just they've gone to Chafin so much in those situations. Yeah. How they maneuver in the bullpen now. So that's interesting to me, and how they might, the trickle down of that effect. You do have Tyler Gilbert here, but he's more of a long reliever. He's not a guy. I mean, you could match him up in certain situations, but that's not really his role. But it is, to me, now you're going forward and you're saying, this is who we got. This is what we're doing. You did add the closer. That was a lift. Even yesterday, everyone knew he wasn't coming to the ballpark till, well, I guess he's been there for an hour now in San Francisco, Paul Sewald. Mm-hmm. I felt like the team benefited from a lift of just knowing that guy was on his way. I mean, yeah. And that doesn't diminish that they still had to close it out, and it wasn't easy last night.
Right.
It wasn't exactly simple. It never is. But this whole situation, I think there's enough here to add a boost. I do think they wanted a starting pitcher. I really do. But you can't, if you weren't able to do it, you go forward here. They're 57-50. They're in the hunt. They're in that wild card spot. They're in a decent spot.
What are you hearing about the starters?
There was a couple that they could have had, but the prices were just too out of line. The asking prices were just, way too high. They were definitely in on a few guys. Even before today, we knew they were in on Montgomery, and they tried to get Montgomery, but the price was just way too high. There was a couple others trying to find out who, but they were in on a couple of starters today. But again, the prices were just what they considered out of line. It was just the teams were asking for, with so many teams in contention, Everybody was asking for, a lot more than what a normal price would be, and that's Lorenzen. They were in on Lorenzen.
Who went to the Phillies?
Who went to the Phillies?
I
just got that out. They were in on Lorenzen.
Gambo, the same question that I asked Jody a second ago. Okay, so they addressed the bat, they addressed the closer, they kind of reinvented their bullpen to a certain extent. Did they do enough at the deadline?
They addressed the bullpen, which I thought was the biggest need. I do think that they addressed the biggest need. They got a closer. They got another guy who could be a 7th, 8th inning guy. I like that. I think they needed to add a starter. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They needed to add one. I think you're relying on 3 rookies now to kind of get you over the hump. That's a lot to ask. I like those rookies. They might be a year away. I think this is a great experience for all those guys down the stretch, pitching in meaningful games second half of the season. Every meaningful game in August and September is going to make everybody better. You're really relying. You can't lose. You got to win these games. Gallen pitches. The last 3 times Gallen has taken them out and they haven't won the game. From this point forward, you've got to win the games Gallen and Kelly pitches because you can still get in there. Because I don't think that the teams around them, 5 teams battling for 3 spots, I don't think there's anybody that's that much better than them. Maybe the Phillies. I think addressing the bullpen will help them a lot. The question is, a starter may have gotten them over the hump. I think that's where you lacked getting that guy, but I also don't know exactly what they were asking for.
Yeah.
What would it have cost to get Michael Lorenzen? What would it have cost to get him? I didn't want to give up 3 top prospects to go get a rental guy.
Yeah, and that would seem to be, if we look around, Jody, the competition, all right, and the competition not only in the West but in the National League wild card. Okay, the Dodgers added Lance Lynn. The Dodgers did a couple of things. I'm
not sure what they're going to get out of him. I'm really not either. I mean, guys always pitch better at that stadium. Guys always pitch better when they have a great offense, right? You have a lot of run support, and so he may, he's going to probably win many more games than he did as a member of the White Sox. But, they're desperate. I think that's something we haven't said in years. The Dodgers were desperate. That's why they wanted Rodriguez. He blocked it. I mean, that's a positive, I guess. I think that everybody, I can't believe we're talking about Michael Lorenzen. No disrespect, but these guys were overvalued based on the fact that there was not a good market.
I agree with you 100%. I think you're right. I mean, look, the Phillies got him. That's a team the Diamondbacks are fighting with for a playoff spot. They got him. They gave up a really good prospect, to get him. And, so they're just hoping that, getting another starter may put them over the top. Pay attention to every start Lorenzen has from now until the end of the season because, if he goes out there and they win 7 or 8 out of the 10 games he pitches in, it may get them over the hump. I mean, but the Diamondbacks, they were definitely in on Lorenzen more than anybody else.
You're right about Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly and honestly the rest of the group. They've got to maximize their potential, the young guys. I mean, they've been doing that. Think about how far they've come this year. I mean, I do have to say, except for the last few weeks. But think about what they did in April, May, and June with guys with the rotation as young as it was. Now, that was because the offense was picking them up time and time again. Look at Tommy Henry. He was giving up, I forget what his ERA was. He had 1 at one point, 6 of his 7 starts in May, and he was getting such incredible run support. If the offense is going to be the key to what the Diamondbacks do down the stretch, in my opinion. Even if Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly are lights out, even if Paul Sewald is, 16 for 16 in saves, that may be unrealistic too. But, to me, it's about the offense right now. Because this offense is what got them to the point where they are 57 and 50, and it's got to come back. And I think that it will. It won't be down like it's been of late. It will come back.
All right. So if we're standing back and looking big picture at baseball, we kind of talked about the teams around the Arizona Diamondbacks. And yeah, I think you're both right. The starting pitching, it wasn't even like it was that great that was available. I mean, Eduardo Rodriguez is good. Michael Lorenzen's good. Jack Flaherty's good. Jordan Montgomery. But the true aces, and I think that's the one for me, the one big takeaway for the deadline as a whole. Holy Texas Rangers and Houston Astros now, right?
Verlander,
that
Scherzer.
To me is the story of the deadline.
Totally.
Scherzer goes to Texas. Verlander goes to Houston.
For their top prospects?
Yes.
Well, and Anaheim got Giolito. Anaheim kept Ohtani, got Giolito.
Got Lucas Giolito.
And they think they're in it as well. But I got to tell you, the Rangers, and they lost Jonah Heim. Jonah Heim has been such a catalyst. Their catcher is an unbelievable hitter and such a catalyst for them. But the Rangers and the Astros are going to battle it out. So the Angels, I don't know where that leaves them, but they
Rangers
went
have
all
never
in
won a
as
world,
well.
Rangers have never won a World Series.
Yeah.
They are so in on this. Obviously they got DeGrom and he got hurt. That's a lot of money wasted, but they decided to still go for it and ended up making that couple of big trades.
All right, just to put a bow on this, and then we'll say goodbye to Jody Jackson, who's
Thanks
done
for
a wonderful
having me.
job on this
It's been
fast-moving
fun watching
roundtable.
Gambo's fingers flying over there. Jeez, he's intense too. I never realized that.
Yeah, he'll just out of nowhere, he'll just go, fam, Diamondbacks, fam, Diamondbacks.
That was awesome. Great job.
Thank
Breaking
you.
stories as you do.
Thank you,
that was
Jody.
great.
Eduardo Rodriguez not going anywhere. That has been made official. Bednar and Keller remain with the Pirates. They are not going anywhere.
And that was a big deal. I mean, the fact that these guys didn't want to part with Cease and Keller, that limited the market. Those two guys
much.
would have been, they
Very
are
much.
the best pitchers that would have been available. They weren't available.
And then, of course, the Mets and their big sale job as well. That's also the big takeaway from this deadline. JJ, we
Thanks, guys.
respect, admire your work. It's always great to
thanks for
have
coming
you in
in.
here. Thanks for coming in.
This was fun.
Look forward to watching you on the D-backs broadcast the rest of the season. Thank you for coming in, all right?
Thanks so much.
You got it. Jody Jackson joining us in studio here for our baseball trade deadline roundtable here on the Burns and Gambo Show.